So let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers coming into this regular season. Last year, they had some injury challenges to Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, but they were still able to get to that top four seed, which was respectable despite all the circumstances they had to overcome. Coming into this season, they hired a new coach in Kenny Atkinson, who was an assistant with the Knicks. He was an assistant with the Hawks. He was also a head coach for the Nets before he stepped down in 2020. He was assistant with the Clippers, and he was also assistant on that championship team with Golden State. So Atkinson has a lot of experience here. And the Cavs are just looking to reset and try something new with another head coach. Obviously, Bickerstaff didn't work out, and they want to go in another direction, which is totally understandable. They extended Donovan Mitchell, which surprised me at first because I thought maybe Cleveland would trade him, but no, they're going to go all in with Garland and Mitchell and Mobley and Allen, which I admire because you want to stick with your core roster, even when you're going through playoff failures. Because you look at last year, they played the Magic in the first round, and that was a tough series. When you look at it from the perspective of Orlando has an elite defense, they're very athletic, they're hard to deal with, but Cleveland was able to overcome that tough matchup and get to the second round against the Boston Celtics. Obviously, they lost to Boston in 5. Donovan Mitchell got hurt after game 3. And you could argue Cleveland could have pushed that series to at least 6 games. So you look at it from that perspective of, okay, we're coming back this year. Isaac Okoro will probably bounce back from last season. I think a lot of it just came down to the Cavs weren't healthy. And for them to be a top 4 team in the East after all that adversity with injuries, they got to have some type of confidence. My biggest questions for Cleveland is, how are we going to maximize Donovan Mitchell and Garland playing together? Because they both need the ball. And I think it's important for Cleveland to figure out at moments in the game when Garland needs to go off and when Donovan Mitchell needs to go off. I think Donovan Mitchell is one of the best shooting guards in the NBA. You can make an argument that he's the best shooting guard right now. I know Jaylen Brown has his finals MVP. I know people are talking about Anthony Edwards, but Donovan Mitchell has been doing this for a very long time, and so has Jaylen Brown, and Anthony Edwards is on the rise. So it really comes down to Garland and Mitchell, in my opinion. I think Garland needs the ball more, and they also need to have him shooting more threes because he's an elite three-point shooter. I know he had a rough season last year, but at the same time, he dealt with injuries. I just think it was just one of those situations where you're a young team, you go through adversity. Sometimes it doesn't always work out your way from the year before to the next year, and you just stick with the process and see how it turns out. So I'm not mad at ownership saying, we still believe in this team. We still believe that they can make a deep playoff run, that they can potentially make an NBA Finals. Because you're looking at the Eastern Conference, and obviously we know the Celtics are really good right now, but even as a Boston fan, I can admit I don't think they can pay everybody after this season because, Drew Holiday, eventually he's going to regress. We know Al Horford is going to retire. Kristaps can't stay healthy. So even if Boston does go back-to-back, it's going to be really hard for them to three-peat. Then you look at the situation with the Bucks. Giannis, is he going to be happy after this season? Because I don't expect Milwaukee to get to the finals. And then with the Sixers, if it doesn't work out with Paul George and Joel Embiid, if Embiid gets hurt or just something doesn't work out, how long is that core going to stay together? And they're going to get older in age. So if you're the Cavs, you stick with the process, and it makes total sense to me. It's just about what is the expectations and what are the goals for Cleveland going forward. Another positive for Cleveland is Evan Mobley's development. We saw his three-point percentage went from 21% up to 37%. So if he's hitting his three-point shot at an elite clip, all of a sudden there's more spacing out there for Cleveland. He's already an elite defender. He can guard 1 through 5 in space and just lock you down. He's a great rim protector. He can rebound the basketball. You got Jared Allen next to him. They're a good combo because they're good at protecting the paint, blocking shots, challenging shots at the rim. So it's really all about what is Cleveland going to do here going forward. Do they stick to this core? They're already invested in it. Do they want to move a piece down the road? Or do you just wait to the offseason, reevaluate the roster, and then go from there? Cleveland is not in a bad spot here. I know they have a small backcourt, but hey, I love Darius Garland. The man, when he gets to the rim, you're not stopping him the majority of the time. Donovan Mitchell, still a phenomenal basketball player. He's in his prime years. So it's tough because there's a lot of competition. You can make an argument that Cleveland could eventually go on a run. So do you blow it up? Probably not, because you look at the options, especially with the salary cap changing. People don't want to go to that second apron. You want to keep your talent and just build this roster out. So I'm not mad about Cleveland running it back. I know some people are probably saying, well, maybe they should have moved off Donovan Mitchell because you have a small backcourt. But again, you just have to trust these young guys that they're going to develop. And if Kenny Atkinson gets them to a new level, then you look at it from a different perspective for Cleveland going forward. Also, you can look at Cleveland's bench. They've got some pieces where they can keep or move off of. You got Karis LeVert, who's a bucket getter. Sometimes he's cold, but when he's on fire, you can't stop him. Sam Merrill's solid as a backup guard. You still got Max Strus, who can shoot the 3 ball. I know he shot it at 35% last year, but you got to respect this shot. You still got Dean Wade. And also, an X factor is Amani Bates if he's going to get more playing time this year. If he contributes to this bench and brings more depth to that wing position, all of a sudden you look around going, where can we improve? Because maybe we need to move off Mara or move off Karis LeVert and bring in another guy to elevate our big man position. So Cleveland's in a nice spot here to tweak things and play around and see what's going to work for the rotation. The oldest guy on this roster, I believe, is Donovan Mitchell. No, it's Karis LeVert, but Donovan Mitchell is 28, so he's in his prime years. So you can take your time for this year evaluating this roster, tweaking things. I think Atkinson should try different lineups and then figure out his rotation going to the playoffs. And let's just say they make the Eastern Conference Finals. That's a huge success for them. But again, my biggest questions with the Cavs is their direction. Are they going to keep Atkinson around? Are they going to be more patient? Is Donovan Mitchell going to be patient with this process and seeing how this all plays out for Cleveland? Because they have shown signs of growth. I know they got knocked down the first round against the Knicks, lost in 5, but they came back, got to the second round. So right now, I would just stick to the process. And if you find a trade that could upgrade the roster, you make that move, whether it's at the trade deadline or in the offseason. But again, I think for Cleveland fans, just stick with this team and see how it plays out. Also, just one more thing to keep in mind. This is still a young team. So there are players who are going to take a leap and get better. So we could see Mobley take another leap offensively. We could see Garland take another leap on his offense or his defense. So we got to remember this roster is young. They've been together for a couple years. So you have chemistry. You've had some playoff success. Now you just got to build off of it. And if you continue to go to another level, and again, even if you don't make the conference finals, you push Boston to a 7-game series, or you push Milwaukee, Philly, or the Knicks, and you make it really tough on them to get to the conference finals. Now you look at the roster going, okay, how can we get to that next step? We're really close. We're very competitive. We make it really hard on these teams. What can we do to overcome them and get to the NBA Finals? That would be the next question. So I like where this roster's at. I like where they're heading. It's just about finding the right pieces, again, putting the puzzle together so it meshes well. And if your belief in Mitchell and Garland is still there, you stick with it and you stick with Mobley and Allen and you go from there. And I'm very curious on the style of play for the Cavs with Kenny Atkinson at the helm, and we'll see how this all plays out. Love to hear your thoughts on what you expect from the Cavaliers this upcoming season. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.